China's first visit to Vietnam in years. Looking for. President Joseph R. Biden's recent visit to Vietnam has had a substantial influence on bilateral ties. President Biden and General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong raised U.S.-Vietnam ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership during their historic state visit to Hanoi, Vietnam. This alliance aspires to revitalize the U.S.-Vietnam relationship by collaborating to accomplish shared objectives of peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. The new strategic partnership agreement with Vietnam opens the door to stronger political, commercial, and scientific collaboration. This deal is part of President Biden's efforts to re-establish U.S. influence in Asia in the face of China's expanding economic, political, and military might in the region. Welcome to my new Today video. We discuss about China's first visit to Vietnam in years. Looking for. Please help me to grow this channel by subscribing, commenting, showing it to your friends, and giving it a like. Now let's dive into this exciting topic. However, it is crucial to stress that this agreement does not necessarily imply that Vietnam is abandoning its big neighbor China in favor of closer relations with the United States. Vietnam is carefully balancing its ties with both the United States and China. Finally, the transformation of Vietnam-U.S. relations into a comprehensive strategic partnership for peace, collaboration, and sustainable development would provide a fresh impetus for future bilateral cooperation. What is Vietnam's importance in Asia? Vietnam is an important country in Asia because of its historical, geopolitical, and strategic relevance. Here are a few highlights. 1. Historical importance. Vietnam has a long history of resisting foreign domination. Notably, the Battle of Dien Bien Phu in 1954 resulted in a significant Vietnamese military victory, thereby ending French colonial control in Vietnam. This resulted in the country's division into North and South Vietnam, laying the scene for the Vietnam War. 2. Vietnam is strategically significant due to its position on the eastern Indochina Peninsula. It borders China to the north and Laos and Cambodia to the west, and it has a lengthy coastline in the South China Sea, an area fraught with territorial disputes. 3. During the Cold War, the United States invoked the domino theory to justify its engagement in the Vietnam War. The hypothesis proposed that a communist administration in one country would soon lead to communist takeovers in adjacent ones, with each one collapsing like a domino effect. 4. Regional influence. As a member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, Vietnam participates in regional decision-making processes. It also has an impact on the regional power balance, especially in respect to China and the United States. 5. Economic development. Vietnam has emerged as one of Asia's fastest-growing economies, drawing international investment and increasing its importance on the world economic scene. In conclusion, Vietnam's historical resilience, strategic position, economic progress, and participation in regional geopolitics all contribute to the country's importance in Asia. When Chinese President Xi Jinping visits Vietnam for the first time in 6 years, he will be looking to ensure that a strategically crucial Asian partner hasn't become too close to the U.S. The Chinese president arrived in Hanoi on Tuesday with a mission to strengthen relations with his communist colleagues. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, he is anticipated to provide cash for railway lines critical to Vietnamese exports, a benefit for a nation striving to boost post-pandemic development. The 2-day trip, Xi's only visit to an Asian country this year, comes barely 3 months after the U.S. on his first visit to Vietnam. President Joe Biden proclaimed an enormous opportunity. That tour resulted in broad agreements with the United States on everything from semiconductors to security. China would want to put pressure on Vietnam not to go too far to these other countries, said Lai Liang Phuc, a senior scholar at the ISEAS Yusof Ishaq Institute, who has studied Chinese foreign policy for 2 decades. I think Vietnam is one country in Southeast Asia that knows how to balance this relationship. The Biden administration's drive to restrict China's influence in the Indo-Pacific combined with Beijing's broad territorial claims in the South China Sea, has pushed countries like Vietnam into a difficult balancing act between the world's two greatest economies and military as wells. This week, Hanoi will be cognizant of that balance, as it pursues economic possibilities with its largest trade partner. Vietnam is concerned that China may use its economic and military strength to establish more control in the South China Sea, where they have competing claims, and the United States is increasing security support. The geopolitical and economic scene has shifted dramatically since Xi's previous visit to Vietnam in 2017, which coincided with the then U.S. presidential election. President Donald Trump's state visit coincided with an economic meeting at which superpowers vied for influence. Since then, Vietnam has emerged as one of the major beneficiaries from trade tensions between the United States and China, as corporations shift billions of dollars from China to the manufacturing powerhouse in order to safeguard supply chains. The Southeast Asian country has taken a more inclusive approach to progress, as seen by stronger connections with the United States and its allies. During Biden's visit in September, the two countries officially strengthened their connection, elevating it to a comprehensive strategic partnership, the highest level and the one used for China and India. Vietnam has maneuvered its diplomatic strategy to maintain its independence, while maintaining stability and development, said Le Dang Don, an economist and former Hanoi government advisor. Japan and Vietnam strengthened relations this month, emphasizing their devotion to international law and territorial integrity. Both countries are involved in territorial conflicts with China. Tokyo also promised to give security aid to Vietnam, after providing the Philippines a coastal surveillance radar system, as Manila clashes with Beijing in the South China Sea. China has taken note of such efforts during a visit with President Vo Van Thuong in Beijing in October. Xi encouraged Vietnam to remember its traditional friendship with its neighbor. Xi's trip will provide an opportunity to strengthen that bond, according to a schedule issued by Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Chinese leader will be met at the presidential palace, followed by a 21-cannon salute on Tuesday, before conducting discussions with senior officials. Xi's economic incentives will be part of those negotiations. China is prepared to give funds to modernize Vietnam's railway from Guangxi province in southern China to Hanoi, as well as to hasten development on additional lines, according to Chinese ambassador to Vietnam Xiang Bo, who spoke to state media on Sunday. According to Vietnamese official media, Vietnam's permanent deputy foreign minister Nguyen Minh Vu also said that the two countries are anticipated to build a new level of bilateral ties. According to ISEAS's Lai, one method Xi may attempt to persuade Hanoi to endorse its vaguely defined foreign policy objective of a global community of shared future. This vision begins in Asia, Xi said in a letter issued ahead of his visit by Vietnam's Communist Party publication. "Asia is our common home," he said. "Neighboring nations cannot be relocated. Helping one's neighbor is the same as helping oneself." Sea of China. Xi will also address military and marine problems with senior authorities, including Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh and Communist Party Chairman Nguyen Phu Trong. According to China's foreign ministry, Vietnam and China have a harsh military history, having fought a short border war in 1979 and contended for control of island chains in the South China Sea, particularly in 1988, when a Chinese naval raid on Johnson's South Reef killed scores of Vietnamese border guards. Since then, China has created the world's biggest naval force, and its Coast Guard conducted near daily patrols in oil-producing areas off Vietnam's coast last year. Hanoi has increased reclamation works in the disputed Spratly Islands, and has urged China to respect its sovereignty on several occasions. While comparable concerns with China have pushed the Philippines toward the United States, Vietnam has worked to keep such problems from destabilizing the broader relationship. Over the summer, it vowed to stick to its "four no's" defense strategy, which advises against military alliances, selecting sides, hosting foreign military facilities, and using force as a threat in international dealings. Despite this, Vietnam is expected to seek reassurances from Beijing on its military ambitions, as Hanoi asserts its advantage after lately being courted by the U.S. They are after positive commitments on that, Carl Thayer, retired professor at Australia's University of New South Wales, said of the South China Sea. That's the major irritant in bilateral relations, and there's nothing that's been done to make it better. Vietnam's tense relations with China and the United States. The first visit to the United States by a Communist Party General Secretary, Vietnam People's Party, CPV, which occurred shortly after his travel to China. Many have hailed Xi Jinping's visit to Hanoi as Chinese president as highlights for Vietnam's diplomacy in this year. The degree of high-level diplomacy reflects current changes in Vietnamese strategic thought, in foreign relations, under the background of a growing geopolitical competition between the United States and China, the newly formed ASEAN community, and a severe maritime conflict in the South China Sea, as well as the ongoing struggle for the next top leaders in the CPV in the 12th Party Congress. The purpose of this study is to examine Vietnam's connections with China, the United States, two of the world's most powerful nations, and the importance of ASEAN in Vietnam's development policies to safeguard its security and development objectives. Vietnam's foreign policy goals. In international relations, the Communist Party of Vietnam, CPV, seeks to preserve its national interests. Three primary goals: growth, security, and promotion of the country's status on a global scale. Since renovation, the objective of development has been prioritized in 1986, and there are no indications of a change in this goal in the foreseeable future. Economic growth is seen as the most significant source by the CPV to boost not just national security but also government legitimacy. It is of the opinion that economic underdevelopment will exacerbate political instability and threaten the government's power. On the contrary, economic progress and better living circumstances would be beneficial. Protect the government against other challenges, particularly the possibility of peaceful evolution. The goals of maintaining national security, preserving sovereignty, and territorial integrity is usually one of the main concerns for any governing party, especially in the Middle East. For the CPV, which came to power and keeps it there by doing these objectives, the party, on the other hand, views these aims of prosperity, security, also in international terms, not individually, but dialectically. Achievement in the not only can an economic growth plan increase the credibility and legitimacy of the government, but also boost overall national authority. As a result, the country's capacity to preserve national sovereignty will improve, as well as safety. Hanoi thought that a tranquil and favorable environment would help it accomplish its development goals. The international environment is a required prerequisite. Since 1988, the CPV has emphasized the most essential strategic goals are to maintain peace and to expand the economy for the interests of the whole party and the people of Vietnam. One of the primary goals. The goal of foreign policy is to create a favorable international environment and conducive to economic growth, circumstances and defines to serve the purpose of national construction. This helps to explain why Vietnam has adopted a strategy of resolving all issues, particularly maritime disputes, regarding territorial conflicts with its neighbors, using only peaceful measures, no matter what, if these disagreements are commonly recognized as concerns of national sovereignty protection as well as safety. This appeal is not only rhetorical. It is based on a strategic calculation, preserving a calm atmosphere for economic progress. To attain the aforementioned goals, Vietnam used the strategy of diversification and multilateralization of foreign relations, with more friends, more allies, and more partners, fewer adversaries. And last but not least, become a friend to all countries in the world community. By fostering a favorable international climate and implementing a policy of inclusion, Hanoi's goal as a friend to all nations was to focus on economic growth and make use of foreign resources, such as technology, markets, finance, and human capital. To support economic improvements, use your expertise through diversification and multilateralism. Hanoi also attempts to intertwine the interests of everybody. Significant forces in the nation, avoiding situations of overdependence on any specific authority, therefore keeping its independence of activities. The very best means to maintain its independence during peacetime and optimize its strategic. There is no need to ally with any nation. Since the Cold War's conclusion, Vietnam has accepted the three no's policy. 1. No foreign bases on Vietnamese territory. 2. No military bases alliances. 3. No siding with one nation against another. In order to give a policy basis for collaboration with all nations, the 7th plenum of the CPV Central Committee presented crucial concepts, partners. In international relations, there are objects of cooperation and objects of struggle. According to the decision of the 9th plenum, with the aims of struggle, we may identify avenues for collaboration. There are shared interests with the partners' connections that are inconsistent and diametrically opposed to ours. Both of those elements are often found in a nation. The next session will look at how Hanoi implements the aforementioned policies and ideas in relations with China, the United States, and ASEAN. The video for today has come to an end. We are grateful that you took the time to view this enlightening video. Remember to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the most groundbreaking content. If you enjoyed watching this video, showing it to your friends, and giving it a like. Bye and have a nice day.